Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be reviewing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-16 win. That's right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually won a preseason game versus the Houston Texans in preseason week number 3. We have a ton of things to go over, right? Both on offense and on defense. A lot of good and a lot of not so good as well. But let's go ahead and get started by saying, hey, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won a preseason game, and as far as we know, there weren't any injuries. Giovani Bernard looked like he was a little bit hurt. Same thing with Scotty Miller, but it seemed like everybody was able to get up under their own power. They seemed to be able to check back into the game, and everything looked to be okay, I think. If there are any updates, of course, I will give you guys updates. But let's get started here with the man himself. Tom Brady, talking about the good. Tom Brady, 11 of 14 tonight, 154 yards and 1 touchdown. Bruce Arians had said before the game that he was going to have the starters in for the entire first half, but it wasn't even needed. Tom Brady lasted only a quarter and a half before he was taken out of this game because he did that good. He looked masterful in this game. He was throwing to so many different types of guys, and he led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to 2 touchdown drives, and I believe 3 drives worth of play. It was absolutely wonderful to see. Overall, Tom Brady did some awesome Tom Brady things. Chris Godwin had a really good game. 3 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown from Tom Brady. He looks to be ready for the regular season. Mike Evans had a solid of enough game as well, given limited time. 2 catches for 20 yards. Ronald Jones also looked good. He had 4 carries for 27 yards and 1 touchdown. We only saw, I believe, one touch from Leonard Fournette. He did not get a single run. He had 1 pass thrown his way. He did catch that pass for 3 yards, but right now as it stands, I think it would be safe to say that Ronald Jones will be the starting running back going into week 1. At least according to how this game turned out is worth. So definitely pay attention to that. Right now, I would say that Ronald Jones is probably going to be the starting running back. Antonio Brown looked good as well. 4 catches for 42 yards. I thought he did a very decent job. Lavonte David was the tackling beast that he always is. He finished this game with 8 total tackles. And then the starting offensive line. I thought they did a good job on blocking for Ronald Jones in his touchdown run that he had. And they did a very good job of protecting Tom Brady as well. Again, the starting O-line, I thought overall they did a very solid job. Now moving on to some of the backups who I thought did a pretty decent job. First things first, Joe Tryon did wonderful. 5 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. You can't ask for much more than that. He really did do a very good job tonight, Joe Tryon did. He was everywhere. He did great things. He's going to work his way into the starting rotation, as he should at this point. And there were so many people who were impressed with Joe Tryon throughout this preseason and really throughout the entirety of the offseason. And yeah, it makes sense as to why. The kid is an absolute beast. And I'm going to be very excited to see how he does working his way into the starting rotation, because right now, it seems like Jason Light hit on another first-round draft pick. Some other guys who did good as backups. Khalil Davis, I thought actually had a pretty solid night tonight. It won't show up in the stats. He only had 1 tackle, but he did recover a fumble. I thought that was always a great thing. I got to give props there for the fumble recovered there. And I thought that he just did a good job at generating pressure against the Houston Texans backup quarterback, Davis Mills. So I was happy to see that. Herb Miller had a very good game today, in my opinion, in terms of stats. Again, he had 2 tackles and 1 pass deflection, but he did have an interception. And I don't think that Herb Miller will have a 53-man roster spot, but I do think he has quite possibly secured himself a practice squad spot. I think that is where he will be a young developmental cornerback. It was good for him to get an interception there. Good job, Herb Miller. Chris Cooper, again, I think had a good game in terms of not so much statistics. I believe Chris Cooper only finished the day with 2 tackles and 1 quarterback hit, but He did prevent a punt from going into the end zone in a very cool-looking special teams play, so I do got to give him props for that. And then, honestly, maybe one of the more impressive defensive guys throughout the entire game besides Joe Tryon was D. Delaney. D. Delaney had probably the game of his life. 6 total tackles, 3 passes deflected, and 2, count them, 2 interceptions tonight for D. Delaney. He did phenomenal. I think that he has secured his roster spot as the 5th cornerback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's going to be really interesting, this interesting thing to see, because I was watching on Channel 8, and what I saw was them depicting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cornerback room as Carlton Davis at the 1, Sean Murphy-Bunting at the 2, Jamel Dean at the 3, and then they had Antonio Hamilton at the 4, and then they had Chris Wilcox, D. Delaney, and Herb Miller battling for that 5th cornerback spot. No mention of Ross Cockrell. So, is that safe to say that Ross Cockrell might be a 4th safety, and then you just have both Antonio Hamilton and D. Delaney making the roster here? Who knows? It's going to be an interesting thing to pay attention to, but it was a weird look, in my opinion. But D. Delaney, regardless of what happens, I 1000% believe he has secured himself a roster spot. He had a very great game tonight. Going to back to the offensive side of the football, Kyle Trask, I thought, looked very good tonight. 12 of 14 for 146 passing yards and a touchdown pass. Kyle Trask looked very good. I think that he adjusted to the NFL speed, getting pressured on basically every play. Don't worry, we will get to that. But he was making good throws. He wasn't throwing any big, risky passes or anything along those lines. Kyle Trask, I thought, had a very good game. And I know a lot of people were very happy to see the young rookie do some good, and I was as well. It was a great thing to see. Javon Hagen, I thought, had a good job. Definitely continued to have a solid preseason. He had 6 total tackles, 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. It was recovered by Elijah Ponder, so I got to give him props for that. You know, Javon Hagen's another one of those guys where, has he secured himself a roster spot? I think you would probably lean more on the side of yes. Maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers carrying 5 defensive backs and maybe not, or 10 defensive backs instead of 10 linebackers. We'll have to wait and see how this shakes out. But Javon Hagen, all in all, I thought he did a very good job. And he was blitzing, he was getting some pass deflections, he was forcing some fumbles. Special teams play will probably be his niche, his role. I'm not sure how he did in regards to that tonight, but in terms of being a defender, overall I thought he looked solid. Props to Elijah Ponder for recovering the fumble as well. Ross Cockrell playing safety is also going to play in part into that. Where does that leave Javon Hagen? Who knows? We will have to wait and see. The final few cuts for the 53-man roster are genuinely going to be very interesting in my opinion. For the last couple of guys here, Ladarius Hamilton, I think that he had a pretty decent game. He had 2 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 quarterback hit. I got to give him props for that because he's just a very good guy. I think he will have a spot on the practice squad. Jeremiah Ledbetter, again, his play won't necessarily show up. Well, in fact, it will show up in the stats, to be honest. He had 3 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, and 1 quarterback hit. And he was getting pressure on a ton of plays as well. I think Ledbetter looked solid. He also was another one of those guys who made a final push for that 53-man roster. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. And then Cody Mcelroy, I got to give him credit for the touchdown that he caught from Kyle Trask. He finished the night with 2 catches for 32 yards. And then also shout out to Grant Stuard and KJ Britt. KJ Britt led the team with 8 tackles. I thought he did some very good work there. Grant Stuard had 3 tackles, 1 pass deflection, and I think he did some good work in his own right. But now on to the bad. There was some frustrating stuff in this game, guys. Blocked kicks. There were 2 blocked kicks for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. One was an extra point, one was a field goal. That sucks. You absolutely hate to see that. Giovani Bernard had a tough game. He had a drop from Tom Brady that did not look good. And all in all, he just struggled, I think, throughout the game. Hopefully he's okay, though, because I still think Giovani Bernard can be good. Just overall, he just had a little bit of a rough outing today. Blaine Gabbert had a tough game, 4 for 10 for 26 yards and 1 interception. It was not a great game for the gift of Gabbert. That's just how it is. It just wasn't a good game for Blaine Gabbert there. Robert Hainsey, though, did struggle snapping the ball, which would lead to a safety on a snap to Blaine Gabbert. I don't blame that one for Blaine Gabbert. Robert Hainsey, this is his first live action game in the NFL, so I'm not really going to knock him too much. He will get acclimated to NFL speed. I'm 100% sure of that. Josh Wells struggled in blocking, as did the rest of the backup offensive line. It was still very frustrating to see. I very much firmly believe at this point that the Buccaneers will go onto the waiver wire and pick up maybe a veteran offensive lineman, maybe a second one, who knows. But some of these young guys, point blank, just aren't playing good football, especially some of the tackles, man. I think that will be something the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will explore. We will have to wait and see how that goes. Keyshawn Vaughn had a bad game today. Not all of it was his fault in terms of rushing yardage, because the run blocking was just atrocious from the backup O-line. But he did have 2 fumbles, which a lot of people led to say, cut Keyshawn Vaughn, it's over, get him out of here. Keyshawn Vaughn will not be cut. If he is cut, I will be very surprised, and I will make a video talking about that cut. But he did struggle in this game. 2 cuts, not a fun time. You don't like to see that. Hopefully, Keyshawn Vaughn can improve and get a little bit better. Speaking of fumbles, Travis Johnson had a fumble. It wasn't good. Blaine Gabbert had a couple of fumbles, like I mentioned. Kyle Trask had a fumble or 2 as well. Just fumbles galore from this backup team, right? And I think part of that was just skill players like Keyshawn Vaughn having 2 fumbles, like Travis Johnson having the fumbles. Part of that was also poor offensive line play as well that I think led into that. So some of it I am not too upset about, but we got to clean up those fumbles, man, 100%. And then finally, special teams blocking just wasn't great. On punting, it wasn't good. On, obviously, field goals, it wasn't good. It led to 2 blocked kicks, and that's got to improve. I don't know how that's got to improve. I don't know if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will look to add special teams players, but yeah, it just wasn't good in this game today. It was a struggle. It was something that was annoying or frustrating maybe to see. So overall, guys, that's it. My game MVP was Tom Brady. He was absolutely masterful tonight. Maybe you could have said Joe Tryon as well, but for my money, Tom Brady came in there. He did Tom Brady things, got out of there in less time than what Bruce Arians wanted to give him, and I got to give him props for that, of course. But yeah, guys, it's going to be a very sobering next couple of days here. I will be making videos talking about all of the roster cuts that are made. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are at 80 players right now, and point blank, 27 guys are going to be losing their jobs. Now, some of them will be brought back on the practice squad, but it's not fun to see people lose their jobs. And you felt for guys who weren't able to get into this game, who are probably not going to be here in the next couple of days, like Ryan Griffin, like guys like Jarrell Adams, among other players. It sucks to see. You don't want to see guys lose their jobs, and I'll say this here, and I'll say it in the other videos as well. I wish nothing but the best in all of those guys' future endeavors. 100%. 100%. I wish them all nothing but the best in whatever they decide to go do here with their future, be it in the NFL or somewhere else. But guys, that's it for this review. Buccaneers win. It's a good feeling to get before week 1. We have about a week and a half now before Week 1, September 9th versus the Dallas Cowboys, but you know we're still going to have plenty of content here on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave your thoughts about this game down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear it. Again, I will see all of you guys in the next video or the next live stream, but until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs!